I don't remember what all of the lumdus is, but I just think that I know it better now than I knew at the other time. So that's the simple words. Just to read the simple words. So we're on Daf Testament Aleph.
Last three words of Marabi.
Right, bottom of Chesam base Amr Abulaza. So the sugi starts. If a husband comes after he was boiled, after he had relations the first time, he says that I penetrated without any difficulty. That means that she's not basula, she's not a virgin, she doesn't have the virginity. There are 2 points how the man might say that either because he says that there was no blood, but that's not what we're talking about. We're talking about that he says basula, that there was an opening was clear, no resistance, and therefore she was she's not a basula, she had relations before he got married, and she's usher to him. She's now now she cannot have relations with him anymore because there's a possibility that she was Mizana during the Erison. Means if she would have been Mizana before the Erison, before she was the Eishasish, so it's true she's not a Basula, but she wouldn't be Usher to him. She was a Panuya that had relations. It wouldn't make her Usher on him. But if we say she's Usher, that means that we have to be choshish that she was Mizana since the Erison. They've been Erison since the Erison, which we call Kedushin, a year ago. She was Eishasish, she was Mizana, she says she's a Nara Marasa. She's a Murasa, and then she'd be she's usher to the husband if she was Mazana. So if he says Pesach Pasul, she's usher to the husband. Why? Even if we trust him, but still it's a double suffix. That's only one suffix. One suffix would be usher. But the Gemara says there are two suffixes. That's the reason why we know.
How do we know that after Yerushalayim that she was a virgin?
That's what we're talking about. So the Gemara is asking Kasha. The Gemara says the spec fake is a double suffix. One suffix will still be yasser because suffix deraisa. But if there's a double suffix, then it'll be mutter. And the Gemara says there's a double suffix. Suffix tachtav suffix and what? No. So we're talking nowadays the people get married older and older age. Then it is possible that the Bulgarians, once she's already at 12 and a half, so then it's possible that it's not closed. But till the age 12 and a half, so then she's assumed that she's a basula. So that's the Gemara's question. Why? Suffix takto, suffix in takto. It might have been done. She might have been Bazana before the Erison, and she was a Pnuya. In Tim Salom takto, suffix bonus, suffix Murasan. That is not a possibility she's mutter because maybe she was raped. If she was raped against her will, she doesn't become asa. So therefore, it's a double suffix. So why should she be asa? So again, Rabbi Loza said she's asa because we trust him. It means we trust him as far as he's concerned that he cannot have relations with her anymore because maybe it was when they were married. But the kasha is maybe not, and that's not enough to be mutter. But also maybe even if it was when they were married already from the Erison, but maybe if she was raped, and then she also be mutter. The Moyen says you're right. The kasha is a good kasha, and usually she's mutter. But tzricha the Eishes Kohen, and you're right. The regular Eishes Yisrael will be mutter because of two spekes. But Eishes Kohen that she's us even if it was bonus, then there's only one suffix. The only suffix was before the marriage, before the kedushin, after the kedushin. If it was after the kedushin, even if it was raped, also should be usher to him. So in the case of Eishes Kohen, she'd be usher. That makes sense so far?
Again, the Ashes Cohen.
If a Kohen says Pesach L'Soch Matzasi, so then his wife is usher because it might have happened when they were married. After the kedushin, it might have happened before. That's one suffix. One suffix is not enough to be mutter. If it will be Eishes Yisrael,
and we don't care if it's honest.
Right, because the Kohen's usher to honest also. So there's only one suffix. One suffix is usher. If it be Eishes Yisrael, then it's a double suffix and she'd be mutter. Ibo is saying another case where I could say that it's only one suffix, Eishes Yisrael, but I know for sure that it was during the marriage. Why is that? That the father received kedushin for her when she was less than 3 years old, which the father has the ability to do that. The father can accept kedushin for his daughter even less than 3 years old. And if she was ever raped before 3 years old, so then it wouldn't affect the basulim. She still would have a hymen. The hymen, Mar says the hymen goes back. If it was removed before 3 years old, it will go back again. So if we see now she's already a gedola. Now she's not. Now she got married fusim bas gimel, and now the husband that had nesuin now after she's a gedola, and there's is that what I'm saying? Yes, and she's a beula. So it definitely happened since the Erison. It had to have happened since the Erison, and they only have one suffix. It was onus and a ratzon. So again, it's only one suffix. That's why it's going to be also. But you're right. In a regular case where it will be a Eishes Yisrael and the Erison was already when she was bigger, after 3 years old. So then it will be a double suffix and she'd be mutter. What did Rabbi Loza mean to say? In these two cases of Eishes Kohen or that she got married less than 3 years old, there's only one suffix and then she's going to be usher. And we trust the husband, the Shitasa, that he says that I found that she was Pesach Pasuach, so she's awesome. The Gemara asks, what's the chiddush that he's trusted? It means she's not trusted as far as to be mafsed her or anything. That's not the subject of the Gemara. The words say that he, l'shitaso, what we call shavi naf shechaticha d'isura, that he says that she's also to me. So if he said Pesach Pasuach Matzasi, so he's Neman. So is that the chiddush? We know that already, that if a husband's going to say that I'm not allowed to be with my wife, for whatever reason he's going to say, he's Neman. As we find in another Mishnah, we have another Mishnah. A man says to a woman, I married you. And she says, you didn't marry me. So as you never married me. And he says, I did. So he can't, he's not believed to answer her in any way. She says she doesn't even need a get. He says, you need a get. Okay, if he wants to give her a get, he can give her a get. She says, I don't need one. And Bezin doesn't have to believe him as far as she's concerned. If she wants to get married, she can get married. But the issue is about the relatives. He is not allowed to marry her relatives because of Shitasa. Since he told us that he married her, so he cannot marry her sister, he cannot marry her mother, he cannot marry her daughter. But she doesn't have to, we don't believe him as far as she's concerned. So if she wants to marry his brother, his father, his son, so she could, because we don't have to believe him. But he is Aser L'Shitasa. So what do you see? That a man is believed. If he says that he's Aser on something, he's Aser. So here also, if he says that he's not allowed to be with his wife because he found her to be Pesach Pasuach, even though it doesn't affect her, we don't have to believe him as far as anybody else is concerned, but as far as he's concerned, we have to believe him, and he's Aser to be with her. So what's the chiddush?
It works both ways. When she says she's an Eden, she also believes that I can't be my husband. So
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. But the Gemara says there's a chiddush over here. Here is a chiddush because we do trust him. Let's say he says I married a woman. He didn't make, l'shitaso, he's not making any mistake. Means we trust him, we believe him, and there's no question he didn't make a mistake. If he says I married her, he wasn't dreaming, he was in the middle of a sleep. He says I married her, so no mistake about it. But here then he says that he penetrated and he didn't feel any resistance and it felt like it was already opened once before. That's already not so 100%. It could be he didn't know how to measure that. His evaluation was not, his estimation was not accurate. So there's a chiddush to say that he's trusted to answer himself, because you might say he himself doesn't know. It means we tell him we believe you, but you yourself might not know. The case of kedushin, if we believe him, he says, "I'm telling you, I married her." So that's the chiddush of Rabbi Lazar, that even though you might say that he's not so accurate or precise to be able to discern if she was a Pesach Pasuach or not, if he says it's Pesach Pasuach, we have to tell them, so you also in your wife. If it's one suffix, if it's a regulation Yisrael, it'll be mutter because it's a spek sveka. If it's a Eshes Kohen, or she was married less than 3 years old, then she's usher because the shitascha. If you said Pesach Pasuach, so as far as you're concerned, the suffix that she was mazanah after she kedushin, and she's usher to be with after divorcing. The Gemara says kasha. Did Rabbi Lazar say that? Rabbi Lazar is the one who said that. The Gemara is an a contradiction in Rabbi Lazar. Rabbi Lazar said another statement. This is the statement of Rabbi Lazar. A woman doesn't become masah to her husband only if the husband warned her. It's called kinoi. This is the din of sota. Kinoi and stira. Kinoi means that he warned her in front of two of them, don't seclude with a certain man, because he had suspicion about him. So he said, don't seclude with that man. And then there was stira. There was seclusion. Aiden says that she was secluded. Then she's asur. And that's the din of sota, that she's not allowed to be with her husband anymore until she drinks the mei sota, the mayim amorim, to prove her innocence. And she's only asur in that case. The more thinks it means to say that any other case, it wouldn't be asur. We're saying now that she's asur with Pesach Pasuach. If he says I have a proof that she was mazana, or at least it makes it a suffix, she's asur. And there he said it, only asur with kini and stira. These words, the Gemara is going to say right away that it means that the way the old story, the classical story, what was the classical story? The story of David and Bathsheba. That over there, the words itself mean to say that there was a case like that, David and Bathsheba, and there was kini and stira, and she was asur to him. There was going to jump up. There was no such thing. By David, there was no kini and stira. David and Bathsheba, there was nobody that made any kind of kino and stira. That wasn't the case. The case was that David was Baala, but there's no kini and stira. So the words don't make sense. Right now, these words, two last words don't make sense. But the statement that Rabbi Lazar said was that a woman only becomes asur to her husband if there was kini and stira. And the one was asking, so Pesach Pasuach shouldn't be asur. And one statement, Rabbi Lazar said that Pesach Pasuach, if the husband says Pesach Pasuach Matzasi, she's asur. And the other statement, he said she only becomes asur with kini and stira. And that is the was making a kasha out of that. Right away,
Kinui?
Kili means that he warns her in front of Adam, don't seclude with that man. And Stira means that she did seclude. There's Adam that she did seclude with that man. Then she becomes thus until she drinks the Mayim Mamor. And the Gemara is asking that our Gemara says that she becomes Asa if he says Pesach Pasuch Matzasi, that I found that she was not a virgin. The Gemara says, first of all, the words don't make sense. Kamaisa Shai doesn't make sense. These last words doesn't make sense. The Tisbra, Maisa Shai, beginning of Stira, the case of David and Bathsheba had anything to do with warning and secluding. That wasn't the story at all. The old Miyasrua, and also the other part also doesn't make sense. By David and Bathsheba, she didn't become Masa to David. She wasn't Masa. They married afterwards. So the whole statement, this Maisa Shai, Mamash doesn't make sense. So we have to fix up the statement before we go further. Holokasha, that wouldn't bother us. I could explain what these two words, Maisa Shai, means. Not Kim Maisa Shahaya, but me Maisa Shahaya. From the story of David and Bathsheba, I could prove that she wouldn't become Maser only with Kini and Stira. Why? Because by David and Bathsheba, there was no Kini and Stira, and she was not Aser. The law have a Kini and Stira, the law is Stira. So I could prove, Abulazar says, I could prove that a woman doesn't become Aser to her husband only with Kini and Stira, because by David and Bathsheba, she was mutter to David. Why? Because there was no Kini and Stira. And therefore, the Gemara comes back to the Kasha. Over there, he said that the woman doesn't become Asa only with Kini and Stira. And here he says she becomes Asa with Pesach Pasuach. You come welcome Kasha. This is the Kasha we just finished asking. Kini and Stira in, Pesach Pasuach no. The second statement of Abulazar says that a woman only becomes Asa with Kini and Stira. And over here, he said that she becomes Asa with Pesach Pasuach. But the one says right away, you're not making any sense. Kini and Stira in Adam low. If there's definite proof that she was Mazana, I'm going to say that she doesn't become Asa. Kini and Stira is only enough, a big suspicion. He warned her not to seclude with somebody, and then she secluded, so it's very, very suspicious. So she becomes Asa to her husband until she's proven innocent. But if the Adam that she was Mazana, do you think Abulazar is coming to say that if the Adam that she was Mazana, she's not Asa? Like that would be ridiculous if he meant such a thing. He couldn't have meant such a thing. Kasha is good. Of course she becomes Asa if the Adam that she was Mazana. So Abulazar didn't mean to say that. Abulazar's statement meant to say, if one aid comes and says she was Mazana, she doesn't become Asa. There's only one aid, and she says, not true, I wasn't Mazana. Only two Aidim. If two Aidim come and say she was Mazana, of course she's Asa. But Kini and Stira, if there was already Kini and Stira, Kinoi, two Aidim that he warned her, don't seclude with somebody, and then there was two Aidim that she discluded with somebody. Usually what happens then? She's not allowed to be with her husband until she proves her innocence by drinking the Mayim Mamor. But then if the Eid Echad comes, before she drank, and Eid Echad comes and says she was Mazana, means we have a lot of things against her. We have two Eidim that she was warned not to be with that man. Two Eidim that come and say that she discluded that man. And an Eid Echad that says I was there and she was Mazana Mamash. So then she's Aser and she's not allowed to even drink the Mayim Amorim. It doesn't help her anymore. She becomes Aser. So far, what do we say now? That we understand, now we understand finally Abulazar's second statement. He means to say that Kini and Stira will Aser her even with the Eid Echad. But that's now the whole problem that we had with the other contradiction that by all us, Abulazar said she becomes Asur Pesach Pasuach is surely not a contradiction. Pesach Pasuach, if he comes and says that the vagina was clear, there was nothing blocking, that's like he's saying, I know that she's a bula. And after Gemara says Kimlay that he knows he's able to say such a thing and he's trusted that he knows what he's talking about. So that's why she's awesome. So the sugi is over. There's no problem. That there's no contradiction at all. Over there, Abulazar just meant to say that with Kini and Stira, then and even an Eid Echad is going to asa. But if you have two Eidim, surely asa even without Kini and Stira. Two Eidim come, she was Mazana. I don't care if there was warning and seclusion. Two Eidim come, say she was Mazana, so she's asa. So here the husband comes and says, I know that she's Mazana, so she's asa. Not Gemara has a side point. Once we mentioned David and Bathsheba, how come Taka he was allowed to marry her afterwards? If David was Mazana with Bathsheba, the Gemara is assuming now that she was Eish Sish. Not like everybody knows what the Gemara is going to say in two lines. The Gemara thinks that she was a married woman, and David was Mazana. So then she's also to the boil, just like she's also to the husband. She's also to the boil also. So how was David allowed to marry her? Why didn't they ask her Bathsheba to David? And afterwards they did marry. The answer is that David forced her. So she was Anusa. She was raped. So then she's not also to the husband, and she's not also to the boil either. If the boil forces the boil, it comes out that halacha that after a woman is mizana, she's also to the husband, she's also to the boil, to the raper. the rapist, how do you call him? So that's only if it was be'mefate, be'ratzon. But if it was be'ones, she's mutter to the husband, she's mutter to the bowl also. So if David raped her, so then she's mutter to marry him. That's the first
Right,
step.
Rabbi, the halacha we learn is that if somebody rapes a man's daughter, he's mechayev him to marry.
Yeah, it's not
The
talking.
Torah is mechayev.
That's not. That's talking about that she was. She was lower rasa. That's talking about that she was not married. She was a pnui over there. But he was talking about she's married. She was already married, mamish. But the fact that it was an onus, it doesn't answer her on her husband, doesn't answer her on the ball either. So that was a lot of marriage. But then the Gemara says the famous teretz that everybody knows. Still tell how the Gemara is going that she was an Eishes Ish, and still there was a lot of marriage afterwards because it was bonus. This is the famous Gemara. We turn the page. The priestess get priestess kosev l'ishto. Whoever used to go to the wars of David's time, they would give a get to the wife just in case they'll be missing in action and the wife shouldn't become an aguna. So they would give a get. And therefore, she wasn't an Eishes Ish because when David had relations with her, she had gotten the get ready from her husband, maybe on the condition that he's not going to come back, or that's already a question that we've shown him. But she was not married. Maybe at the end that he died, so then I'm afraid she wasn't married. But if he gave a get, so that's why she was not an Eishes Ish. And the pasuk doesn't. Interesting. The pasuk doesn't say there was a plan on David about an Eishes Ish. The pasuk talks about that he did such a thing. Like you have a lot of sheep, and the other neighbor only has one sheep. You have to take away that one sheep. So it's Neitad ben Adam Lachaveru that he took away Uriah's wife, but not Ishad Eishes Ish. And now the Gemara is going to prove that the minhag was at that time that when they went to war, they would give a get to their wife, just in case they don't come back. That's the pasuk over there, and it's a different pasuk. It's even before David became a king. That's talking about the case when by the war against Goliath, and David's brothers were in the army, and Yishai told David to go to the war, to the battlefield, to seek the peace of his brothers, how the brothers are doing. He had 3 brothers in the war, in the army, and he says, take their arubasam, take their arubasam. The Mepharshim over there say that it means take anything that they had pawned. If they had to give a mashkin, the army
did what?
Pawn, P-A-W-N, that if they needed money, the soldiers needed money, and they didn't have money. Now they didn't have money transfers like today. They didn't have credit cards. They didn't have all these things, so they needed money sometimes to get some of their needs, food. So they would maybe give a mashkon. They would give to borrow money and give a mashkon, collateral, to be able to get what they need. And now Yishai sent David with money to give to the brothers, and they should be able to take back whatever they had pawned. That's the Pashut of the pasuk. But the Gemara says, "Drash, what does that mean? Take the get from them to give to their wives." Means that the 3 sons of Yishai had gone to battle, and they hadn't given a get to their wives, and the minhag was to give a get to their wives before they go to battle. My best battle. Best what does it mean, this pasuk? Tani of Yosef, the things that are mixed between him and her, between the husband and the wife, the thing that connects them. Take away the connection. Take away the connection between the husband and the wives, which means give a get a get. That David was instructed to take a get from his 3 brothers for their wives. What do you see? That was the custom at that time. This wasn't when David was a king. And Rashi points out, even though it says David, but this was the custom even before David became a king, and David continued in the same custom that was before him. So that's the second teretz. The way David was able to marry Bathsheba is because when he was Muzana with her, she was not Eishes Ish. She got to get it ready from her husband. What do we have so far? Just to sum up what the Gemara said, to zoom out, the Gemara said a husband who says that I had relations the first time with my wife and there was no resistance when I penetrated, Pesach Pasuach, so she's usher to be with him. He's not allowed to continue relations with her because the Shitaso, we believe him as far as he's concerned. And in a case where it's only one suffix, like Eishes Kohen or Pusa Bas Gimel, then she's going to be usher to her husband. If it will be a spek Hashaka will be mutter. That was a Belaz's Chiddush. The Gemara now, how to come into Asugya? Because of now. Now the Gemara is going to bring a raya back to the first Mishnah, the first words of the Masechta. I bring a raya from a Mishnah that Rebbe Elazar is right, because it says in our Mishnah. Let's think about it before we see it inside. It says that a Basula gets married on Wednesday. Why? Why Wednesday? Because Bezdin's open on Thursday. And what's the difference? If he finds that she's a Bula, he should come running in his heat, and he should come tell Bezdin that she's a Bula. And if he wait until Monday, he might cool down. What do we care? What's going to happen? What's the problem? What's the problem if he cools down? Why do we care? What do we care if she's a bula or not? As the Gemara is going to say, if it's because he wants to say that I don't want to give her ksuba, that I thought she's a basula. Now you're saying a bula. I obligated myself 200 zuz for ksuba. She's a bula. So we don't have to, that's not our business. That's his business. If he, after a couple of days, cools down and says, okay, I'll keep her and I'll pay the ksuba, so that's his own business. Say Pesach Pasuk Masasi, we'll say, okay, so then she's usher to you. And if he cools down, he's going to forget about it and he'll say, I'll keep her, she's a good girl, whatever. And then he's going to continue living with her for the rest of his life with a woman who's usher to him because so that's a right. It says the Mishnah Basul and it says what is it that she has to get married on Wednesday? Why? Not on Thursday, only Wednesday. Why? My time, because he might cool down till Monday. The business open on Monday. He's going to cool down. He's not going to come. So what's the difference? What's his concern? What's the issue that we want to draw out of him to make sure that he doesn't cool down? If the issue is that giving ksuba, that he doesn't have to give her ksuba, if he says that she was a ba'ula and we don't want him to cool down, why not? If he wants to give her, let him give her. That's his business. He says, okay, she's a bula, I'll pay 200 anyway. It must be that he's coming to say that I'm not allowed to be married to her, and we don't want him to cool down. With the katan taina, he's coming with a taina to say that she's a bula. My love, the katan taina is pesach pasuach, isn't it? That he's coming to say that I made a beila, I made a cohabitation, and there was no resistance. Pesach pasuach. That means that pesach pasuach is enough to say that she's a bula. So isn't it the Fresh Mishnah? What your Belazar said? And the Gemara says, no, not necessarily. No, the Katan Tan is dominant. It could be in the Mishnah that he says, I had a beer and there was no blood. Saying there's no blood is much more definite than saying Pesach Pasuach. Pesach Pasuach is something that depends on his feeling. Did he feel resistance? He didn't feel resistance. How much resistance? He didn't realize. That's something that's not so barur. That's the Chiddush of Belazar. The Mishnah could be talking about that he says there was no blood. If there was no blood, that's like day and night. Is there blood or no blood? It doesn't have to be a big chacham to see if there's blood or not. So if he comes and says, I made a beer and there's no blood, then for sure she becomes aser. That's not a chiddush. But again, you'll have the double suffix over there, only in case where there's one suffix. But to say that the Mishnah is muchach like a belazar, there's no proof in the Mishnah. The Mishnah could be talking about when he says that there was no blood. But if he says that there was a Pesach Pasuach, so then maybe we don't trust him. We tell him we believe you, but even you don't know. You're also not enough expert to be able to tell if it was Pesach Pasuach or not. So the Mishnah wouldn't be a right to belazar, but it could be. We're not disproving him. We're just saying that it's not a right from the Mishnah. Adkan, that's the sugya. That's the sugya Pesach Pasuach. Just to point out the difficulty in all this, that the Rishonim speak out right in the first Mishnah, that Al Gemara says it's only a problem if it was Eishes Kohen or it was Pusim Bas Gimel, because then there's only one suffix. But if it be a regular case,
what was the second one? If it's not a Kohen, what is it? With the
Pusim, they got married less than 3 years old. So
less than 3 years
old. Definitely, if she doesn't have a sulam, it means that it happened after the marriage, after the kedushin.
I see.
So it's only one suffix if it was onus or not. So, but the Gemara says if it would be a regular case of Eishes Yisrael that didn't get married less than 3, then it's mutter because it's fake faker. So why should every girl have to get married on Wednesday? Only this case, Eishes Kohen should get married on Wednesdays, and Pusam Yivas Gimel, she got married originally the kedushin, but otherwise why get married on Wednesdays? It's a fake. Even if he comes to Bezdin says, "Say, calm down, it's okay. It's fake. You can stay married." So that's the concept that we shown him right away in the beginning of the first page of the Masechta, and Taisva says that it means like a low plug. Since some girls have to get married on Wednesday, the Eishes Kohen or the one who got married, the kedushin on the Pusam Bazim has to get married on Wednesday, so we made everybody should get married on Wednesdays because of those particular cases. Or Rashi says a little different that once he comes to Bezdin, then Bezdin will try to investigate. The Adam will come and say if they know that there's nus was, but
I mean, like let's take the case of it's a bas Kohen, right? We're talking about a Kohen.
If the Kohen gets married, then we
Kohen,
understand.
in other words, there will be Kohanim if they see people getting married on any day.
Right, so Kohen
So
also
then
get
a
married.
Kohen may
any
also
day.
want to get married on
Right.
any
If the Kohen, we want to get married on Wednesday only.
Nice.
So we made all the marriages on Wednesdays. Okay, that's the sugya. That's the sugya Pesach Pasuach, famous sugya. Another sugya. Ama Rav Yudah Mashmuel. Omer Pesach Pasuach Mitzasi Mel Lav Sidak Subasa. Till now we spoke about that she becomes usher to him. Now we're talking about if he has nemanas to say that I don't want to give her ksuba. A basula, we'll see soon. A basula gets a ksuba of 200 zuz, and someone who's a ba'ula gets a ksuba of 100 zuz. And he comes and he says, I married her and she's a be'ula. I don't want to give her a ksuba of 200. I was fooled. And I want to only give her, be mechayiv myself a ksuba of 100. So
Lafsida means
to make her
lower
work,
it, not to
right.
finish, not to end. the
It could
whole
be, maybe the point is also that he says I didn't, that this maybe it's like I didn't mean to marry her under certain circumstances. I thought she's a
thing. You don't
psula.
have to pay
So
anything.
maybe no ksuba. I didn't look into that. Let's see. Does Rashi say anything?
Yes, well, he says,
It doesn't
lafsid,
Rashi that to make her lose the ksuba. I don't know if it means she loses the whole ksuba or that she will be chayiv a ksuba of 100 only. I didn't look into that. But he has no honest to say that I'm not going to give her the regular ksuba because I thought she's a psula, really she's a bula. And here we don't talk about that. The whole Sugya till now spoke about that
She's
he's
usher.
usher to him. But now we're talking about if he had, now that till now made more sense because it's his business. He says it's straight to me. I cannot. It's usher for me. So
and
we
now he's
say,
no be'evid.
but now he's affecting her. Does he have the money to affect her?
Yeah.
So that's going to be a riddle until the next page. We'll do it today in a couple of minutes. But the Muslim going to tell us soon why he should be there. And how can he have the money to make her lose money? I'm Rav Yosef. First thing, says, Mike Mashmalan. I have a Mishnah like that. It's not even a Chiddush. Tanina is a Mishnah. It says later on, this is a Mishnah. That's the Mishnah. If someone, we know already before that in Yehuda, they used to do Yichud. After the Erusin, they would seclude the Chassan and the Kala. They should get to know each other. They should feel comfortable. We said also that they say Sheva Brachas also, because in case they're going to have relations, they should be mutter to have relations. And then it's done in Yehuda. We're talking about Yehuda. So here it says now he had such a wedding in Yehuda, and they had Erusin, and they Sheva Brachas, and they had Yichud. What?
You have water? You
Sorry?
have water?
Oh, thank you very much.
Oh, Ochel here is the Sudan. What is how?
Yeah, he made a meal. They made
He
it
made him move by the father.
by his father-in-law. It means he came to visit his bride, not a bride mamish that she's already married. They did kedushin
It's in
already
Yehuda.
in
Yeah, it's
Yehuda.
in Yehuda.
All right, and there was no edim that they did not have yichud. Means if he's gonna, if we'll see in a
There's
second
no Edom
that they did not have yichud, means they
You
might
have
have
to have
they
edim.
might have secluded. No, if you want, we'll see soon. Let's just leave that for a second. And
Usually we
then
have Edom that they're secluded today.
put all that aside. So in other words, leave out the words for a second. We'll come back to that. Someone who eats a meal by his father-in-law in Yehuda, and he meets his bride, and they have seclusion, and then eventually they get married. A year later they get married, and then he comes and says she's not a basula.
Oh, maybe he is.
Oh yeah, so we tell him, yeah, it's you.
You.
If Nation Mesiachanima, that it might have been you. So you have no time on her because you might. If Nation Mesiachanima, because he has seclusion with her, we used to seclude them. In Yehuda, after the Erusin, we would also allow them to have yichud. We would do Sheva Brachas and make like a mini wedding. That even though it's not the official wedding, it's going to be in a year down the road. But we wanted them to get to know each other, so we do Sheva Brachas. Then we make officially a married. You could even do the suah and take her into the room, and you could even have beer. So then he comes.
Not allowed to. Not in.
He doesn't have a time, now if he
He
comes
doesn't
after the
have a
marriage.
tie-up because they had.
Because we tell them, maybe it was you yourself, you can't have a taina. But what could be deduced from that Mishnah? The Yehuda who the lo matzitan, Abigolo matzitan. Here it says only Yehuda. He has no taina. But if it will be in Golo where they don't have seclusion, then he could taina. What's he taina? What's he coming to say? That she's a beula. Ulamai. Ila osra love. Yehuda my love. There are two issues. When a husband comes to say that I had relations the first time and she's a bula, what does he want? There are two choices that he wants. Either he wants to say that I'm not allowed to marry her, I'm not allowed to be with her anymore, because maybe it was when we were after the kedushin and she's a isha zinsa and I'm not allowed to be with her, or he's coming to say that I don't want to give her ksuba. If it's talking about he wants to say that I'm not allowed to be with her anymore because I'm choshish that she was mizana, and I'm telling you that it was not me. I wasn't, and I was not. Means even if there's no edim, but he says I know that I was not boel, and if she's a bula, that means that she was mizana, and I'm usher to be with her. So that's then we have to believe him because the shita. So he's saying that's like Shavichan Nasha Aticha Deisu. He says that I know that I'm not allowed to be with him. So that then he would be allowed to, he would ask himself even in Yehuda. It wouldn't make a difference if it's Yehuda or not, even if they had Yichud in Yehuda. But he says that I know that I was not Boel, and I know that she's a Bu'ula, and therefore I'm not allowed to be with her. So we say, you're right. The Shitasa, if you have to be Asa. It wouldn't be different in Yehuda. It must be Ela Lav, Lav Sirik Subasa. It must be that he's coming to say that I don't want to give her Ksuba. And he's saying some kind of claim to know that she's not a Basula. What does he know? My love, the Kantan is Pesa Pasua. Isn't the Mishnah over there Muchaf that he's able to Mafsir Ksuba because it says in Golo, he is believed, and Yehuda is not believed because we tell him that it's you yourself. But in Golo, where there was no time that they had any Yichud, so if he comes and says that she's a Bula, he's believed. Believed for what? it must be that it's believed to say that I don't have to give her ksuba. Because if we'll be talking about to say that she's usher to me, then she's usher to me even in Yehuda also. So that's a fair shavaya to the statement of Shmuel that if he says Pesach B'Soch B'Tzasi, he's believed to say that she doesn't have ksuba. Isn't that a fair shavaya? The Gemara says low, same thing as before. To katan time is damim. Maybe it's only if he says that I had a bia and there was no blood, then it's clear that he's saying I know she's a bula. But we said before that the taina to say Pesach Pasuch is not such a barur taina because he himself might not know. He thinks he knows, maybe he doesn't know. So that would be a chiddush. So Shmuel and Abu Lazar, both of them said in different instances that the man is believed to say that I know that she was a bula. From the way that I made it, I penetrated, I could tell that she was a bula, and therefore the first halacha of Abu Lazar said that she's usher to him, and the statement of Shmuel said that he could be mafsed or ksuba. We still didn't get to the root of the point. How is he mafsed? How is he never to be mafsed or ksuba? Like who is he to say that she shouldn't get ksuba? She says I was a basula, and he's the one who made me not to be a basula. So how could he make her lose ksuba? We didn't get to the root of the problem. That's going to be in the next couple of lines. If that's good, the Gemara continues. Itmar, Amar v'Nachman Amar Shmuel, Mishum Rav Shimon Elazar. Chachamim tiknu them v'Yivnos Yisrael lebasula masayim b'lo mana. The Chachamim made a takana of ksuba. Here it says this can be a short sugya if ksuba is the rice of Rabbanan. The fact that a man has to give to his wife ksuba is that the rice of Rabbanan. So here it says in the name of Rav Shimon Elazar that is Rabbanan. Chachamim were metaking for a basula 200 zuz for ksuba. Ksuba means if he divorces her or if he dies in her lifetime, so then he pays a ksuba. That's 200 zuz for a psula. If she's an almana, so then only 100 zuz.
That's a takana.
That's what it says so far. So far it says that it's takana.
Oh, okay.
That's what it says. Soon we're going to see there's machlokas about it. But this so far, they said that they have to pay ksuba, and they said that if he says pesach pasuach, he's believed. Which is going back to our issue. Why should he be believed? Here it says if it would be deraisa, then he wouldn't be believed. But since it's only Rabbanan, so they believed him that if he says Pesach Pasuk Masasi, he doesn't have to pay ksuba, or he doesn't, or maybe like going down to 100. I didn't clarify that.
No, the fact that there's a difference in the money, we're gonna.
No,
It says that we're gonna believe him.
I think the fact that because it's Rabbanan, since the whole thing is Rabbanan, so they won't have the right to make the takana. They have the right to take away the takana. They said that you have to pay ksuba, and they said that we trust you if you say that she's a bu'ula.
I see.
Like it's called Hein Rambu, Hein Rambu. They're the ones who said it, and they're the ones who said it. They're the ones who invented it in the first place. So they could take it off whenever they want to. So they say that we believe him if he says that she was a bu'ula when he got married.
Okay.
I still didn't clarify the point if he loses the whole, she loses the whole ksuba, or this, I don't know. But the Gemara asks, if you're always going to trust him, if he says Pesach V'Soch B'Tzasi, as soon as they get married, so then he has such an easy way of getting out of it. So what did they accomplish with their takana? If you're always going to believe him. The Gemara says that usually he's not going to lie. There's a chazaka, a person's not going to make a big wedding feast, and then the next morning, that was his plan. A person is not like that. He's not going to pay money, how much the wedding cost. He's not going to make a wedding for thousands of dollars, and then the next morning say that she's a bula, and he's not going to do that. So it's not normal. It isn't normal that he should do such a thing. So therefore, we do trust him as far as ksuba, and that's what the Gemara before. When the Gemara we just did, Shmuel said that if he says Pesach Pasuch Matzasi, his chiddush was that even if it's not dam, even if it's Pesach Pasuch, it's also a clear time enough. We trust him and she doesn't get ksuba. Why doesn't she get ksuba? Like the Gemara says now, because his chazaka that he's not going to mess up the wedding make a wedding for nothing. If it doesn't like, don't marry her.
We're saying that we believe him to not pay the whole ketubah.
I still don't. I don't want to say it because I don't know. But
to not pay some of it.
But either go down to 100 or not to pay it at all.
And the reason that we're saying that it's okay is because he paid so much for the wedding.
He's not going to come the next morning and lie and
just to
say,
get out of a ketubah.
right. That's what it sounds like.
Yeah, he lost $50,000 for the wedding. He's not going to save $100. It makes sense.
It's not $100, is it?
How much?
It
It seems the wedding was more
than
the investment of this more than he would make on claiming that. If he doesn't like it, he wouldn't go through with it.
Also, the ketubah is only in the future, right? Or
if he divorces her or if he dies. But he wouldn't make a big deal out of it. If he wouldn't make a wedding and then get out of the ketubah. Maybe I could say better. If I know better, I would say more clarity.
It's a year's support, isn't it?
Yes.
Why do we never look at him as maybe it's just that he doesn't like her?
That's what we're talking about. If he doesn't like her, so he should divorce her. Yeah, I'm saying, we have a shot, maybe he doesn't like it.
Right to take away the kesuvos.
No,
That's what we're talking about. Maybe he doesn't like her and he's just making up a story.
Right.
So we're saying, if he doesn't like him, he would have divorced her without making the wedding feast. And then the next morning saying that she's a boomer. He would have divorced her before they got married, before the suing.
if you really didn't like her, why did you get married in the first
Know
place?
that this is not what I want. So they'll.
No, that's not
that's
called
not
a
gonna-
mekach talos.
Just because that in the first night, but if he knows before, the day before, he doesn't like her, so don't take her. He's gonna make a whole wedding and then say that she's a boomer. That doesn't make sense. Taisha just talks about that in the case, if that's so what's the difference in Yehuda? How come Yehuda does not believe? This is a question that the Rishonim asked Rashi, Tosfos. So if so, Yehuda, if that chazak is so strong, so what's the difference in Yehuda? Yehuda also, he should, where am I
You
going
should
over
be
here?
able to not pay the ketubah.
Right, because the same reason that he's saying, he wouldn't have made a feast and then say that. So Tosfos says, go to Rashi, one shot, Tosfos seems to be simpler, that in Yehuda, it's considered a vada that they had relations. It comes out more to get the culture of Yehuda. It wasn't just that in case they have relations. In Yehuda, that was the seder that they had. They had,
Because
They were
going
saying-
to Yifrit,
right, they were
be
going,
together.
that was the purpose. That was the plan. And Yehuda, the minhag was, they made a erison. They can't get married to yet because they have to get their act together. Takes a year. He should get a house. She should get her dress and everything. They have to make house. Takes time. Like nowadays, it takes 3-4 months to make a wedding. In those days, it took a year. So they're not ready to make an official wedding, but we officially get married erison and have sheva brachos. Means that we do the brachos that she should be able to have relations, and we do yichud, and we expect them to have relations in that mini wedding. And then she'll stay home by her father still, and he's going to go and come back in a year, make the real wedding. Then she'll go into his home. But it was assumed avada. It's even more than the chazaka. The chazaka is that someone's not going to make a wedding feast and then blow it up. But if they have relations in Yehuda, then it's considered avada that they have relations themselves, and therefore he can't come and say that I didn't have relations. That's his shot over here.
Turns out in modern, non-religious Israeli circles, that's also mikubal, that it's not that she's in her father's house. Usually she has her own apartment or something. But people will have relations and plan on a wedding to be a year and a half in advance. It doesn't mean they didn't have relations.
Yeah,
They're
but
saving
yes,
for
but
the
that,
I want to
yes.
get my degree and I want
Yeah,
to get
but that's
the money
yes,
together
yes.
and then I'll
But
have
it's very
the
different because here they have relations without marriage. In your case, in
It's
modern
without-
case,
right,
but
there's
here
no
they're
commitment.
married.
It's a real marriage.
It's a real
Yeah,
marriage,
it's-
and it's not the big feast wedding and all the official, but it's already halachically, technically it's a full wedding. They made erison and that sheva brachos, and then everything is 100%. Just they're not ready for the full blown wedding and moving into his house. So, but it's an official, technical, legal wedding.
Is that happening today?
No, nowadays everything
No, now it's
happens
just
under the
snooze.
chuppah. We do not, yeah. Now it's a pani bala pnuya. We hope that
Yeah.
hope she's not a
Yeah,
nida,
yeah,
all
she's-
these things, Okay, the more continues. Now we go a little bit into the sugya of ksuba. Is ksuba the rice or drabbana?
Somebody said something yesterday, kesuvos is like a mini shots. It's like over.
No, I heard just a minute.
I'm not sure what you mean to say.
I'll tell you what it is. It's the
What
Hida.
does it have to do with
The
us, our
heat.
subject?
All the shots.
The
Yeah,
Hida
okay,
calls
yeah.
it,
So
calls
far
this
we-
Masek the
So
Shas
far, we're only
Katan.
dealing with marriage and.
Okay,
you know,
yeah.
You said, sure, so he said.
He calls it Shas Katan.
I'm
talking-
just waiting
we're
for all the
talking-
other stuff.
No, but there's a lot of things that aren't in it, but it's called Shas Katan. But,
Okay.
Shots cut them, that's what it's called.
Okay, the more starts about ksuba. So now we're on the subject of ksuba. Now I'm on the subject. Is ksuba the rice or drabbana? Tana. You learned in the brayso. Oh, the knas chachamim hu v'sigla lemanaziburus. When a woman comes to collect ksuba, either because her husband divorced her or because her husband died, she only has the right to get ziburus. Ziburus means the grade C fields. There's grade A, B, and C. If there's Beta, there's ziburus, and she only has the right to get ziburus because the whole thing is a knas.
Ziborus is
penalty.
where? Grade B, did you say?
C,
Grade C.
the lowest grade.
the
So
lowest.
since the whole thing of ksuba was a knas, so she doesn't have right to get the best field or
What's the
Beta.
class? Not-
Oh, very nice. That's my kasha. Knas and my knas. What knas? What kind of knas? Who's a knas? Why is it be a knas? Ksuba is not a knas. Doesn't mean knas. It means since it's drabanan. Since it was drabanan, so they didn't give her the right to collect only from the low grade fields. That's Tanakama. Tanakama says it's drabanan and only gets ziburis. But Rabbi Shimon Gamliel argues and he says ksuba is the right son. Ksuba is each of them not. Maybe he argues and says that you get ibis. I don't know. But he says that ksuba is the right son. Tanakama says drabanan. And that's also what I said before. On top of the page, he also said that's drabanan. But here, Shimon Gamliel argues, he's a Tana, and he says that ksuba is the raisa. There was a contradiction in Shimon Gamliel. We'll see in a second where he gets it from. Where is it the raisa? Where does it say so? He says that ksuba is the raisa, but Tana we learned in the raisa it's going to be a Tanakam and Shimon Gamliel. Shimon Gamliel is going to say that it's Rabbanan. Kesef Yishkol Kumar Basulos. So that's talking about a Mafata. If somebody seduced a woman to have relations, so he has a Ketana. So a Ketana, I forgot over there, Nara. So she has to. So thank you. So he has to pay 50 shkolim over there. The pasuk says, how much does he pay? Tomorrow basulos, which means the price of a ksuba.
Mohar.
Mohar. The same means like a present. The present that they give to it, like a dowry. They call the present that you bring. I don't know what the dowry is called nowadays. It means the present you give to a bride is called Mora Basulos. So that's what it says. She is Mora Basulos, and Mora Basulos goes there. The pasuk is saying that a mafata, somebody seduces a woman, has to pay the knas of Mora Basulos. That means that's what a Mora Basulos is. Mora Basulos is this. So you see that the present given to a basula is this 50 zuz, which is 50 shkolim, which the pasuk says kesef 50 shkolim, which comes out to be 200 zuz. We can't. Some chachamim. Yes, not force. This is mafata. Mafata doesn't mean onus is force. Mafata means she was seduced. But she's not married over here. But it says that she's a Moab Basulos, that he has to pay the penalty because he took away her virginity. So he has to pay.
Take 100. She's cut shy 200.
I think the 50 of the Torah is like 200. 50 shkolim is, I think. But anyway, the Raisa says that this is the source to say that it's the Raisa. You can't some chachamim the ksubas ishim in Torah. Tanakama says that it's the Raisa. Based on this pasuk, since it says Moab Basulos, that means that there's a ksuba with the Raisa. That's Tanakama. Before Tanakama said it's Rabbanan, and Reb Shimon Gamliel said it's the Raisa. It's opposite. Tanakama says it's the Raisa, and Reb Shimon Gamliel says it's Rabbanan. Reb Shimon Gamliel omer ksubas isha ene b'derei Torah, b'derei sofim. The whole thing is Rabbanan. So it's contradiction of Shimon Gamliel. Before he said ksubas isha in Torah, and then he says ksubas isha is Rabbanan. Contradiction. Then my answer is April. Switch around the Raisa before. The Reb Shimon Gamliel is the one who says. I'm sorry, this one. Switch around this one. Here, Reb Shimon Gamliel is the one who says that is the Raisa, based on Moab Basulos, and the Chachamim are the ones who say that is Rabbanan. Switch around the name. It's a mistake. The first Raisa is right. Second Raisa is the opposite. First, the Gemara wants to know how do you know which one to switch around? If it's a contradiction, you have to switch around one of the Raisas. How do you know which one to switch around? Well, my cause is the opposite best Raisa.
It's the opposite.
Say
there are two Raisas that contradict each other.
Right.
One of them is going to be switched around. You don't know which one. Yes, please.
Where's the end of the question?
My chaz is the opposite best Raisa. Epicham Raisa. Who tells you to switch around the second Raisa? Best Raisa means the second, the last one. Switch around the first one, and maybe Reb Shimon Gamliel is the one who holds that it's the Rabbanan. No, we have another source. Reb Shimon Gamliel said it's the Raisa. There's another source where Reb Shimon Gamliel says openly that it's the Raisa, the Tnan. This is the end of the Masechta. Reb Shimon Gamliel Omer no salam in Moscow Putkia. Over there, it's talking about if a marriage was in Eretz Yisrael and the get was in Kaputkia, two different countries that have different kinds of currencies, and the money is worth more in Kaputkia than it is in Eretz Yisrael. And the question is, when he's Mechayim Shlok Ksuba, does he pay the low currency of Eretz Yisrael or the high currency of Kaputkia? So there it says that if you hold Ksuba's Rabbanan, so you always go with the lower price. If you hold that as the Raisa, you go with the higher price. And over there, Shimon Gamliel says that you have to give more Kaputkia because he holds like Ksuba's the Raisa. So that's another source that if Shimon Gamliel holds that as the Raisa. So we're not going to switch around the first Raisa, we'd rather switch around the second Raisa to keep Shimon Gamliel that says that is the Raisa. So far, they wanted the Gemara say that there's a machlokes that two is the Raisa Rabbanan. Reb Shimon Gamliel is one who has that as the Raisa. There's a Raisa that says Rabbanan. You have to switch it around. Iboy Sema, Kul Reb Shimon Gamliel. We could also edit the second Raisa to make it also say the same as the first Raisa, that Reb Shimon Gamliel holds that as the Raisa. Something's missing. You have to edit the second Raisa. We can't sound with Ksubas Ishim in the Torah, as the Raisa says that Moab Basulos is the source that Ksubas the Raisa. But Ksubas Almana Ein Medivei Torah Elam Medivei Sofrim. But an Alman, the whole source says Moab Basulos. Moab Basulos means that she's a virgin. Over there, there's a din of Ksuba the Raisa. But by Almana, there would be no Ksuba the Raisa. Then the Rabbanan invented there's a Ksuba for Almana 100. Reb Shimon Gamliel, not that that's machlokas. Don't make Reb Shimon Gamliel's argument. So we amended the Brisa. Let's go back a little bit to see what it was before. Before it read like this: that
page.
Right.
Where is this?
This is on the same page. On a few lines up. It said Kesef Yishlok Moab Basulos. Moab Basulos. Yeah, this is the Brisa. We can't some chachamim the Ksubas Ishim in the Torah. Right here. Stick in. But if it would be almana, it'll be Drabanan. Because Reb Shimon Gamliel says, not that Shimon is arguing with anybody. Tanakama is it's one big Tana. Reb Shimon Gamliel is talking that Ksubas Besula is the Raisa, Ksubas Almana is Rabbanan. Because Reb Shimon Gamliel said that Ksubas Almana, not Isha, Ksubas Almana is Rabbanan. So everything's good. Tanakama holds that everything's Rabbanan, and Reb Shimon Gamliel holds everything is what do you mean everything? Everything's Rabbanan means even a Besula. That's Reb Shimon Gamliel. Tanakama holds everything's Rabbanan, even Absul is also Rabbanan. The Shemel holds that Absul is the Raisa, but Amman is Rabbanan. So we have Machlokes, the Absul is the Raisa of Rabbanan. That's the end of that similar. And now we have a lot of stories with kinds, all the same issue we have that the husband comes and he says to a Pasuach, she's a Bula, and now the Gemara is going to have a couple issues about that, about 6 stories or so. Ahu. I just started each one with a period and a new story. Ahu Dasa Lakamedi of Nachman. A man came to Rav Nachman the day after the wedding. My wife is not a virgin. I found that easy penetration. Amalei Rav Nachman Azbu Kufri. Hit him with palm branches. Beat him up. Mavrachta Chabitale. So Rashi says that the idea is going to be, how does he know that how does he know? He's the first time marriage. He's a bocher. Hasn't been married before. How does he know how it feels the first time? He comes and says, Pesach Pasuach is a grace of Knaka. That means as if he knows. So he says, if he knows, so that means that he was Muzana before. Mavrachta Chavitale. So Rashi says Mavrachta is the name of the city, and Chavitale means they're all lying before. It means that all the zonos of the city, he has relations with all of them. He's such a big mumcha that he knows that it's Pesach Pasuach, so he deserves to be beaten up. Rav Nachman says that he's believed if he says that Pesach Pasuach Matzasi. So here he's saying to beat him up. So it's not a contradiction. You beat him up and he's believed. Means Mahemen, it's true, he's believed. He says that it's Chizabula, but must be like Kufa, but we beat him up. We hit him with these palm branches because Rashi says that the palm branches are prickly, they have thorns on them. So we beat him up. I think the word we give him, Rashi doesn't translate the word exactly. Beat him up with the palm branches. So because it's true, he's believed, but how does he believe? Because he says he knows. How does he know? That means that he's Muzana before. Another terrorist to answer the kasha. When does he believe? Only if he's been married before. His second time marriage. So then he knows how it feels. So then he's believed, and you don't beat him up. But if he's a bocher, you beat him up, and you don't believe him. That's the truth person. Next story. A man came to Rav Gamliel also after the wedding. He said she's not a virgin. That the penetration was easy. She's already had relations with somebody. Maybe when you had the relation, you did it. We had this a couple of times already that you did it at an angle that you were able to penetrate without breaking the hymen, and it's not a proof that she's not a basula. Could be she's a basula, but you went at an angle. I'll give you a mashal. A man was going in the dark, pitch black. Hita matzo pasuach. Lo hita matzo no. It came to a place where there's a opening, a small opening, and if he went, how does it go?
I'm sorry, what is hita?
Hita means he inclined. He went at an angle. Hita matzo pasuach. Lo hita matzo. If he goes straight in, so then he's going to bump into something. But if he goes in at an angle, it could be that he'll be able to get through a small opening. So it could be that.
Why would you orchestrate such a nice? That's not normal.
Who orchestrated anything?
He went in an angle. Why would he do it like that?
He doesn't realize. Here the Gemara says he doesn't realize. And even though here this Gemara says that maybe maybe you went at an angle, even though you didn't find Basulim, it's not a proof. Maybe the way you did the first bia, you didn't realize, and you did it in an angle, and you didn't break the Basulim, but it's not a right that she's a bula. And that's the mashal he says that sometimes if you go straight in, so then it'll be locked. It means there'll be something blocking you. But if you go at an angle, others have a different version of what he told him. So that's what Chaim David was saying, that maybe you did it intentionally. The first case was that he maybe by mistake, by chance, maybe it happened that you went at an angle. The second thing is that maybe you intentionally meant to go in at an angle because it wouldn't have happened by itself. And we're not going to be told that by accident he went in by an angle, only if he tried to. But that's what he told him. Maybe you did it at an angle. That's why you didn't find Basulam. And you uprooted the door and the threshold, which means, I don't know what it means, but it means the words literally mean, and you were able to go, the idea is to say that you were able to penetrate without breaking anything, but the words don't sound like that. The words sound like you uprooted everything, but I don't know the word, I don't know how to explain the words, but the idea is to say, if you did it in an angle, it's possible that you avoided breaking the basula.
So then he didn't, so they weren't believed.
He's telling you don't have to worry. That it could be, the first question says you don't have to worry, even if you didn't intend to, maybe by chance you made it at an angle. The second one, he was asking him, Do you remember? Maybe you did it intentionally at an angle, and therefore no problem.
I see.
This lesson says a different mashal. Someone's going to the doctors and he came to a small opening. If he intentionally went at an angle, he maneuvered to get, then he'll be able to go in straight. But if he's going to go in without intentionally maneuvering, then he's going to bump into something over there. So too, if he made a beer without intentionally trying to make a maneuver, so then we're not going to assume that it was at an angle. And that is a kasha. How come she's not a basula? But if you intentionally did it at an angle, it could be that she's still a basula and you didn't break the basula. A new story. Who does look made the Gamliel? Rebbe, Gamliel, son of Rebbe. Rebbe, down. The man said, "There's down, not past the basula." Here he says that there was no blood. A different time. I know she's a bula because I had the first relation and there was no blood.
I know that she was a what?
She's a bula. She's not a virgin because there's no blood. This is different than the whole Gemara. The whole Gemara said a few times that not to find blood is even a stronger time. There's no blood. The Pesach Pasuach.
I thought if you don't find blood, it could be that she's still a basula. But if you do find blood, then for sure you know she's a basula.
No, the sweet opposite. If there's no blood, so then she's not a basula. Okay, you have that before also. That'll be, you'll say the same thing the Gemara said before. The Gemara could have said here also.
Yeah.
Good, but that's because of possibility of an angle. Good. The Gemara says here, I'm a low Rebbe basula hayisi. She said, I don't know, but I'm a basula. I never had relations. This was our first time relation. I'm kosher. I'm a lahem. Also so Gamliel Rebbe said, bring me the cloth that they had under them. The shas beer means I want to see if there's blood over there. They view also there was no blood. They brought in the cloth and there was no blood. That's what the husband said. There's no blood. The shoro b'mayim v'kipso. He soaked it in the water and he washed it. And then matzah tikamati b'damim means that the shech v'zera, the semen that was on that was covering up the blood. There was a little bit of blood over there. But shoro, they soaked it in water and washed it. Shoro, to be shoro means to soak.
They soaked it in water when they brought it to the rabbi.
They brought it to the rabbi. No. The rabbi now put it in water and he washed it a little bit. And then he would put some detergent, and then it came off the shech v'zera, and they saw some blood. So here is blood. They found some blood. Go and enjoy your buying. Means means this fine. She's fine.
Your acquisition.
The acquisition. A good
I
translation.
don't understand how they found the blood.
It was
Once you wash it, I would think that there's nothing.
Right, so they washed it in a way that only the shechazeh would come off, but if the blood stays stronger, the blood is more
Not on the water, on the cloth.
on the cloth, right? The stain of the blood is more embedded and not remain.
And he didn't see it?
Because it wasn't washed. He looked at it and he just saw there's no blood. And Gamliel also didn't see it, but he washed it, took up to shechazeh, so then you can see the blood.
Stain.
Right. So after they heard of this idea, so this is in Babel. This story about Gamliel was in Eretz Yisrael. And then in Babel they said, let's do the same thing. We should also practice like this. If a man comes with a kind of no, we should soak it and soak it and see if it. We can't do that. In Eretz Yisrael, the washing was more.
Astringent?
It did a better job. So our professional dry cleaning, our professional cleaning is like their regular cleaning. Their regular cleaning does a better job. So in Israel, right. So even though
is stronger than kibbutz.
Right, and our giyutz is like their kibbutz. And therefore, if we're going to just our kibbutz is not going to show anything. Nowadays they call giyutz ironing.
Right.
Steam iron is called giyutz nowadays. But there it doesn't mean that. It means some kind of more professional.
But
kind
ours is in Babel, isn't it?
Right, and we in Babel, if we just do kibbutz, our kibbutz is a garnish. If we're going to do kibbutz, and that's not going to show anything. It's not going to get off the shech v'zera in a way that the blood will be made.
Israel had a better cleaning system.
Right, the Israel had better cleaning. Rashi has one shot either because Rashi says because the water is better water in Eretz Yisrael than in Babel, or because they have better detergent in Eretz Yisrael. So in Eretz Yisrael, the cleaning will take off the shech v'zera and leave the blood.
Wait, okay,
Go ahead.
I'm lost.
No, you're not lost. Go ahead.
They can't do it in Babel because their washing is worse.
Right, and therefore the washing is not going to take away the shech v'zera and leave the blood.
Oh.
So then the kasha is, okay, so do it professional, do it
So
gear.
it's
then you
better-
take it-
yeah, yeah,
But if you're gonna do gears, then Rashi says chumash means the stone. They used to rub it with a stone. That was the professional cleaning. They rub it with a stone. But then the blood is going to come out also. There was no way to discern to get out the
There's no way to be
shechasera
adjusted
without
shechasera.
this. But if you have a place where you could do it, so then there's a way to discern. If you can't, you can't. Another story. Who does like Gamliel by Rebbe? Same person. Amalei Rebbe, Balti V'lo Matzasi Dam. No blood. She's a bula. Amalei Rebbe Adayim Besulani. Here she didn't say I was a basula. She says I still am a basula. Means he still wasn't bold in a way that he broke the basulam. He didn't do a good job. He didn't perform yet. So
Well, she didn't say I was a
I
basula.
am a
She says,
basula. I am a basula. So Rabbi Gamliel had a test. But before he did the test, he wanted to check out if the test is reliable. The more going to say this soon. He said to bring two maidservants. He didn't want to do the test on Jewish girls. He said bring two shvachos, one who's a virgin, one who's not. So they brought these two shvachos. He sat them, of course, without any clothing. He sat them on a barrel of wine. The beula, you would smell the wine from her mouth also. The same way the wine, very strong wine. So if she's a bula and the Pesach is opened up, so then I don't know if there's a physiology, I don't know how this works because doesn't happen that the whole body is open. But here it says that a basula will cause that the wine smell will even come from her mouth. But basula ain't rechanode. If she's a basula, then you're not going to smell any wine from her. And they did this test and that worked. And then he tested it on this woman. They tested her and it was not
And it could not
rechanode.
smell.
I guess they could have gone to a doctor also, a nurse, to check if she's still a basula now. She says my hymen is still there. So they did this test, and that was a proof that she's a basula, and he said she's fine. I told the husband, go have a good marriage, everything's fine. The question is, why do they have to bring first the two shvachos? Why do they have to bring two shvachos? He should have right away done this test. He said,
Big gava.
the gava in her. They should have tested with her right away.
Gava.
They should have checked originally with her. Means why do you have to first bring the two shvachos for her? Why not just do it with her alone?
Yeah.
On your husband.
Why?
I mean, if you
You want
already.
to bring chiva on the husband to say that the shvachos they do have
Why does that have to do with the chibah?
because they lost their virginity. She didn't.
No, they brought two shvachos, one a basula, one a bula, to see that the test
Oh,
works, and then they brought her and she said she's a basula.
They
My
they
answer-
already knew that if he knew that the test worked.
Right, that's the was right, yeah.
The control sample.
What's that?
But maybe he needed to see the proof of it.
That's what
It sounds like a control sample.
A control, yeah, good. To make sure that it works. That's what the Gemara says. Gemara have Gashimi. He knew such a Masorah. He had a Masorah that there's such a test. But Maisel have a Chazi, but he never saw that actually works. So he didn't want to do the test unless he tested it out to see that it works. So maybe it's Shapir. Maybe he doesn't know well how to do the test. And it wasn't their Eretz to be Mazazlan of As Yisrael to do such a kind of test, to put her with a naked bottom on the barrel in order to see if it smells. He didn't want to do that unless he knows that the test works. If he knows that the test works, so then it's the kedai for her to prove her virginity. But if not, he didn't want to do it. But he did it. The test works, and then he said that she's a virgin. They could go continue. She's okay, and he can have relations. You'll find that she's a bula. You find that she's a basula. Next story. Who does somebody else? Not Rebbe. Again, same thing. He said no blood. She's not a virgin. I'm from the family of Dorkati. And the Gemara says neither Dorkati means Dorkatua. The point is that they don't have blood. This family, they don't have blood. The girls in that family, they don't have blood.
Oh, even if they're basula.
Yeah, they don't have menstrual blood. They don't have virgin blood. But they asked around the relatives of that family, and they said, yeah, that's the way it is by us. And he told the husband, go ahead, it's a good marriage, have a good marriage, take your acquisition, she's fine. And he told her, fortunate are you got such a good family that they don't have blood. First of all, I hear Gemara says right away, my dorkati, dorkatua. What does dorkati mean? Dorkatua. Dorkatua means a cut of generation. What does that mean? Katua. What is cut? Yeah, Rashi says, why is it called Katua? I don't know why. Katua means cut, but Rashi says because they have no damid and no dam basulim, so I don't know why is that called Katua. Katua, the fact that they don't have, I didn't look into it. Why is it called Katua? It says
Why is it a mile?
no, so I'm a Rebbe. So he said it's a mile. They have no blood. The Gemara's going to say soon. He comforted him nonsense. Means he told him that it's good, as if to say you're a lucky man, you got such a wife. Really, it's not true. The Tani Rabchia, Kishem Shasal Yafalisa, Kachdam Yafalisha. On the contrary, it's good to have blood. Just like sourdough is good for the dough, it makes it rise. So too, blood is good for the woman. That if she has blood, she'll have a lot of children. Yeah, the Tani Mishim Abnei, Chalisha Shadamem Ruben, the more blood, the more children. That's on the contrary, blood is a good simon. So it's not true. He said that you're lucky. He wasn't lucky. Two versions what he told him. Either one said that you're lucky, go you have a schus to get your acquisition. The other one said that take it, you have it, it's yours, but you're not so fortunate. The one who says that you're stuck with it is like Rabbi Hanina says that it's not so lucky to have such a wife because you're not going to have a lot of children. The one who says that it's a good thing. What's good about it? So the last they suffer neither that she's not going to have any kind of sphakus of neither because she doesn't have blood. Maybe she doesn't have common neither at all. No sphakus. They could live calmly without having a suffix. Maybe she's going to see blood. Next story. Last story.
They continue the generations.
No, so it says that they have less children, but not no children. It says that, but it doesn't have a lot of children. Even according to them, not that they have no children, that they don't have a lot of children. But it just says that the one who says the other way, no, Darkatua doesn't mean that they're cut off. It doesn't mean that they don't have children, like you said, it's a whole generation, families. But it just means the opposite of a mayor. Mayor says that the more blood, the more children, and the one who says the opposite says. Again, yes, that the more blood, the more children. So the less blood, the less children. So that's why maybe it's called Darkatua. Maybe something like that. But that's the question: is it considered a Milo Chisam?
So then, was the bracha was wrong to say?
Which bracha?
Ashrecha.
So the Gemara says that there's something. Maybe it's something fortunate about it that they're not going to have suffolk neither. But at the point of having children, there's less chance that you'll have a lot of children. That's Gemara. Who does? Again, he said that no blood, she's not a virgin. I am a virgin. I'm not sure. He says Adayin and Hayisi. Yeah, it seems like he says she's still a basula. There happened to be a years of famine. So Rebbe attributed the fact that she didn't have blood because they were both hungry. It was famine, they were undernourished. Rebbe saw that they were undernourished, their faces were black. He said that they should go to the merchas, they should go wash and eat and drink. He gave them nourishment. They brought him into a room, and then he did find blood. No, it's new story. It's a period and a new story. New story. Go get your acquisition. Because the fact they were undernourished, that's the reason why they didn't have a successful beer. Otherwise, she had blood. So Rebbe said the pasuk that it says in Necha at the time of the Chorban that there was such a famine. So it says over there this pasuk, and like it's dried up. It's dry like a piece of wood. So they were dried out because of the famine. But then when they ate, then they were able to have blood. What is the word safad? The Rashi is subshatim over here. One from Dunish and one from Menachem. The two medactic Rashi exam usually. Dunish Pirish. What does safad mean? Rashi says Dunish says that it means the vako that it's stuck, and Menachem says that it means shachar that it's black. But one of those words that we don't have in the rest of the Tanakh, safad. Safad, tzadi pei dalin. That's a one-time word in Tanakh. So what does it mean? That's from the context over here. Either it means that the skin stuck to their bones, or it means that their skin was black on their bones.
This is because of the
famine.
Because of the famine.
There's no which word? Samach pei gimel. This is no. Yeah, this is not. This is tzadi pei dalin.
There's no in the Gemara. There's no question about the man not knowing how to have relations.
There is a different Gemara later. Later on, the other Gemara, which he says he didn't have relations at all
for a year or something.
That's later on. If she says that he doesn't have relations, he didn't consummate the marriage. That's going to be later.
The woman says,
and he says yes. She says no. That's going to be a super later on. Yashkoach, everybody. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.